Welcome to a new episode of eLearning Unscripted. Today we'll be speaking with Justin Seeley about Agentic AI and AI trends that L&D pros should know about. Let's get started. Hi, Justin. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Let's dive right in because we have a lot to cover today. We have a lot to
Sure.
cover. Okay, so the first question I have for you, let's kick things off with, what are some of the most significant AI trends that L&D pros need to adapt to in order to make the most of emerging technologies, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest shifts that we're seeing right now is how AI is enabling what I would call true personalization at scale. So
Mm,
we've talked about personalized learning for a long time now, but
yeah.
it's not actually happening, right? It's like not actually
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
not that futuristic thing we were promised. It's not as dynamic. So platforms are using real-time learner data to adjust to what content gets served, how it's presented, and even the pace or format based on someone's role, their goals, or their prior knowledge. So it's not necessarily this one size fits all model. It's basically taking into account, I would say, tens of thousands of points of data about the learner, about the learning community around them, especially within an LMS situation. And it's really using that to adapt its speed, its delivery, its recommendation engines, all of that stuff. And, in addition to that, I think generative AI is really accelerating the creation side of learning in terms of scripts, quizzes, questions, video content, even course graphics. I think those are being built in minutes instead of weeks
Wow.
now. And I mean, that is mind blowing, right? Somebody for me, like that comes from a graphic design background, I see some of the things people are generating now, and I'm like, I would have made so much money off of that back in the day. And you are generating that in 3 seconds. That is so
Yeah.
not fair. That's
I mean,
changing what teams are capable of, right?
yeah.
Especially smaller teams that may not have full creative resources in-house. Me personally, I've led big teams, I've led small teams. My small teams, we always struggled on the graphic side to keep up because we were able to generate a ton of text, but we didn't have the supporting visuals, and often it took weeks to get those visuals in. Now it's days, it's minutes, it's hours, it's whatever, and that's crazy. And then I think the last part of it would probably be the agentic side of it. So that's a big step in this whole process. And I'm not talking about chatbots. I think chatbots have been around forever. Ask it a question, get a canned response, fine. But these new systems, they're able to take initiative. They're able to guide learners. They're able to suggest next steps. They're able to read what's on the screen and proactively give advice or reach out and re-engage with people who might be falling off. Like they know if you're paying attention. That kind
Yeah.
of autonomous support, that's a big leap forward for learner engagement, but it's also a great tool for instructors themselves. Because you think about it, I took online classes back before online classes were a thing, like back in the late 90s, early 2000s. We had online classes at my college. And I think back to it now, like that those teachers never knew if I was paying attention or anything else. Right? They
Were
didn't. They
you,
didn't.
were you, Justin? Were you?
Probably not. I was probably eating pizza and playing PlayStation while the class was happening on the side.
Oh my
But
goodness.
had there been like an agentic thing that was able to see, well, he hasn't moved his mouse in a few minutes, or he hasn't looked at the screen or blinked or whatever it is. And I'm not trying to like scare people into thinking these things are like monitoring your every move, but that's what they can be used for, attention tracking. They can be used for, like, let's say somebody's reading something during a class and they have to scroll back up. Well, maybe they didn't understand it. Maybe the agentic
Yeah.
agent is able to recognize, oh, Justin is struggling. So let me give him some supplemental materials that might help him understand this paragraph that he keeps scrolling back to, right? All of that is going on. And all of that also, ties in with AI powered skills and skill mapping and talent intelligence. L&D is really starting to work more closely with HR and workforce planning, so that AI can help them identify gaps, kind of like that agentic thing, identifying if
Yeah.
you're up or down. Same thing, helping HR people, understand where you are in your career path, aligning your learning goals to maybe some of their business goals, and what used to require a massive manual amount of effort is now done in just a fraction of the amount of time.
It is crazy. It's crazy when if you try to wrap your head around it now, you know what I mean? It's
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 bananas.
future.
It's
Yeah, it
absolutely
is.
bananas.
It is. Now, I know you covered a lot about agentic AI, but are there any overlooked perks that you think organizations just aren't even considering, aren't even taking into account at all? Maybe from a data perspective, I guess, right? Gathering so many
Sure.
insights from learners.
Yeah, so I tend to think of agentic in a couple of different ways. So one from the learner's perspective, I think agentic is a game-changing thing. It's like having a tutor in your pocket that's always available, always paying attention, always working for your best interest, right? It's tuned to
Hmm.
whatever you're doing. So instead of just like passively receiving information, the learner now has this ongoing dialogue where they can get tailored prompts, they can get just-in-time resources, they can say, hey, they could type and say like, hey, I really didn't understand like what he was talking about up there. Can you explain the Pythagorean theorem to me one more time? Like they can get that kind of stuff in real time. Whereas before, and I think I was a victim of this in school, is probably why I didn't do so well. Like I was one of those like did not want to raise their hand, right? Because I did
Yeah,
not
yeah.
like I didn't understand. Now you can raise your hand to your agentic agent and you can say like, "Hey, I don't get it," or "Could you explain this?" And it's a huge help. So I think it's a boon for learners. For the L&D perspective, I think it takes a lot of pressure off of L&D teams because they can handle a lot of these repetitive tasks that we today, I think, get bogged down in so that we can't spend a lot of time on high level strategy or execution and things like that. So
Exactly.
these things can answer questions for you. They can send reminders to students about, upcoming compliance dates. They can recommend content. They can also, to you, the instructor, flag at-risk learners. So they could say stuff like, oh, well, hey, Justin's not doing so hot in math. You might want to, give him some extra help or something like that. That really frees up the instructional designers, the teachers, the learning leaders to focus on strategy and innovation instead of just constantly feeling like they have to be a firefighter out in the world. And, having led large scale learning teams, that's exactly what I felt like. That's one of the reasons why, like, when my job at Adobe came open, I was like, oh, yes, please. Because I was not going to have to be that firefighter all the time. It allowed me to immerse myself in this community and learn a lot more about how everybody was using these tools and things like that. I didn't have that space as a learning leader because we didn't have AI to help offload a lot of these
Hmm.
tasks, right? And then I think the last benefit of these is going to be the impact on the flow of work. So Agentic is going to be embedded into tools that people are already using, like CRMs and productivity suites, internal dashboards, Adobe tools. Like we can bring contextual training to the moment when it's needed. And that kind of integration is just really going to help drive adoption and retention in a way that's way more effective than traditional training would be. And then to your point, the data. These things are going to be able to give us a level and depth of data that we have never seen before. It's going to be personalized to the learner. You're going to be able to drill down to the very minuscule parts of their learning journey to understand where they are excelling, where they are falling behind, and how you can help them. And that's going to be the biggest part of it. They're going to give you advice on how to help them. You're also going to get broad strokes about how well is your program performing? Where is it falling short? And what are the things you can do to bring that up? So, for example, if somebody is really into the gamified piece that of your learning journey, but they really zone out during that hour-long synchronous lecture you make them attend, then it will tell you like, hey, people really don't want to hear you drone on in a webinar. Maybe think about switching this into micro learnings or more engaging things like flip cards or whatever the case may be. These things will know that. They'll know what people interact with the most. They'll know what works best, and they will actually be the ones to help you set that strategy. Up to you on how you implement it. I think that's the key to remember. These things are not to replace, they're to
Hmm.
augment, and they're to really help clear this almost like ambiguous brain fog that we get as learning designers because I think oftentimes we get into this like everything is a course, everything is a flip card, everything is a test. Like that's not the case always. That's not how people learn. That's not how we should teach.
No, it has to be more dynamic learning experiences. That's what I always think of it
100%.
as. Yeah. Now, you brought something up. I think there's still a lot of apprehension surrounding AI, especially in the L&D sphere. So,
Yeah.
what would you say to L&D professionals to help them kind of shift their mindset about the whole AI and human collaboration thing?
Yeah. I think I'd start by saying that, like, remember that we've been here before. When online learning first
Yeah,
started,
yeah,
there
true.
were skeptics about that, right? I can remember very clearly talking about that online course when I was in college. I can remember very clearly my mother sitting me down and giving
Oh
me a
no.
lecture about how terrible this was going to be. I can
Oh,
remember my advisor saying, "Why on earth would you want to sit at home in your pajamas and take this course on marketing?" It's the same thing. It's just like when, Creative Suite went to Creative Cloud, from the for perpetual model to cloud model. When Microsoft started doing Office 365, it's a very similar change to all of this, and it could also be likened to uh, old cell phone versus smartphone, right? It's
yeah,
very much
yeah, very
that
much so, yeah.
we have made this transition several times. So it's the same thing that we have to adapt. And each time we've had to adapt, it's opened new doors. It's opened new opportunities. You have to be willing to see those opportunities, and AI is really no different. The challenge is that we need a new mindset. We need this kind of ingrained sense of curiosity, experimentation, and openness inside of us. And that's something that we already know how to tap into, but we have to get past that initial, like, um, forgive me for using a phrase from my grandmother, but the pearl clutching. We have to get away from we have to
I
get
love
away
that
from
phrase.
we have to get away from the pearl clutching of the robots
Yeah.
are coming to take our jobs. The key shift here is seeing that it's not necessarily a replacement. And I say necessarily because there certainly will be areas where it will be a big disruptor. But overall, I do not see AI as a complete replacement of the human workforce. I see it as a big collaborator. And I think that's what I would tell my team if I was starting a new team today. It's not here to take your job. It's here to take your busy work. It's here to take your tasks you don't like, maybe. And then when you let AI handle that repetitive, low impact stuff, you get more time to do things that actually make a difference, and hopefully stuff you actually like to do, like engaging with
Yeah.
learners, iterating on your design, thinking big picture. And I also think that it helps to reframe AI as a creative tool. The same way when Photoshop came about, people were mad, but Photoshop didn't replace the paintbrush.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
when the iPad came about and people started drawing on the iPad, it did not replace Photoshop. So this is just another iteration of that. This is another paintbrush. This is another pencil. This is something else that's at your disposal that you can use. And it can help you brainstorm, it can help you prototype, polish, and even test things faster than before. I was recently working on a course where I used ChatGPT, and what would have taken me, a few hours to fully outline this thing just by me going back and forth a few times saying, no, 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 I don't really like that, or yes, I do like that, put that here, put this there. It's like a digital whiteboard. And one of my favorite things to do used to be to sit with my team and whiteboard. Well, this is like having a whole digital team in a room, that's able to get me to a point that I wasn't able to get to in 3 or 4 hours before. Now I'm able to do it in 30 minutes to an hour. Then I could take that to a broader team and I could say, what do you think about this? And then we could iterate on it further, but I'm already 50% down the road. I've sifted out a lot of the bad ideas. And I think that's going to really accelerate creativity more than it's going to do anything else. And I think that's also important. Like I'm eating this dog food right now, and I think everybody that's in a learning leader position needs to, because we need to lead by example. If we
Hmm.
want our owners to be open to it, if we want our teammates to be open to it, then we want them to be able to change and embrace these new tools. We have to model that mindset within ourselves, and we have to show them that we're not afraid, because it could just as easily, come for my job the same way it comes for anybody else. Like, part of my job is being on podcasts, writing blogs, doing videos. Like, there's no reason they couldn't clone me right now and have me do these videos and these things. But I'm not worried about it because I feel like there's an inherent bit of the human spirit that it can't replicate. And as long as you can keep bringing that to the table and your authentic self to the table, and then view these things as something that just simply augments and supports rather than replaces, I think you'd be in a much better spot.
Very well said. Very well said. Another thing that you mentioned how, you basically prompt engineering. How
Yeah.
important do you think that is? Because I'm hearing a lot more about that, of course, these days, the importance, but how important do you think that is especially in the L&D sphere for L&D pros?
Prompt engineering is a skill that's going to need to be in everybody's repertoire eventually. And I'm not just talking about L&D, but L&D specifically, it really needs to be the case because what I'm seeing now is prompt engineering was a job for the last year or two. Like that was
Hmm.
something people hired for. They hired prompt engineers. That's no longer the case. People now are expecting the baseline AI literacy to be high enough in most people that are coming in for jobs that you know how to prompt engineer. And so the better off you are when it comes to communicating and collaborating with these systems, I think the easier you are going to be employed. So I think it's a
Yeah.
huge deal.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. Okay, so now since we're on the subject of AI, and that's
Yeah.
basically what we've been talking about today, what are the most popular use cases for AI and e-learning that you've seen, particularly when it comes to creation, curation, and connection in general?
Sure. So I think on the creation side, AI is really helping to speed things up. You can draft, lesson outlines, generate questions, write scenario scripts. You can even create avatars and voiceovers now, which I think is both awesome and kind of scary. But I just got back from Learning Technologies UK and I saw a bunch of demos of like robots talking, and I was like, wow, that's really awesome. But also at the same time, I'm like looking behind the screen, like, is this real? Like, is this a person
Awesome,
talking?
but a bit terrifying at times,
Yeah,
probably.
a little bit. Yeah. But all of that is being done in a fraction of the time it used to take. You think about, I watched a documentary on how long it took them to do Jurassic Park, and they were saying one frame of a dinosaur walking, one frame. Mind you, it's 24 frames per second, right? So one frame of that movie took 4 hours to render.
Oh my
That's not the
gosh.
case anymore, right? That's not the case anymore.
No.
Now you can make a dinosaur walk in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So I don't think that necessarily. I don't think that gives us a free pass. It certainly doesn't mean that you can skip quality control, but it does let you get to a one version faster so that you can spend more time refining it. And that's another thing that I've been telling a lot of people in the creative field, specifically around creation, is this is not replacing you. It is changing you from being the production artist to being the art director. So you will still have the ability to control what this thing looks like, how it behaves, what it does, what the colors are, all that kind of stuff. But you need to know those aspects of your job much better than you know how to draw the dinosaur, right? Because this thing will draw the dinosaur for you. It's the refinement of that and the what it does after it's been drawn. That's the key. Switching over to curation, I think AI is how to say AI is probably like the smartest librarian you've ever met, right? It's
Yeah, that's a
able
good.
to go through that the card catalog and surface the most content. For those who are listening who may not know, the card catalog was an old system we used to use to find books back in the day. These big drawers with lots of numbers.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you
Smelled
either
musty, musty smell.
yes,
Yes.
I
It's
can
all
still
coming back
remember
to
that.
me.
Oh man, wasn't that a great smell though? Like for
Yes.
real.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so like this stuff can surface that content for every learner. It can with tags and it organizes your learning assets. It can even build playlists, learning paths based on someone's behavior. So you think about me coming into a system and saying, I am a systems engineer, but I need to up my game in the following categories. And the LMS allows you to choose what those are, or the course allows you to tell you what those things are. AI can read those signals in the background and it can automatically start to curate a better learning path for you, something that is more relevant to your role, something that is more relevant to your interest, and also probably your performance data. Because you might tell it that you're super interested in a subject, but if it knows that you lack foundational knowledge that leads to that subject because it can tell that you've got poor performance data there, it might recommend that first to say, you know what, Justin, I understand you really want to do like, I don't know, advanced physics. You're pretty poor at basic algebra. So let's stick some of that in. And I'm using myself as an example because I'm terrible at math. So if any of my teachers hear this,
Same.
they're like, "Oh yeah, he
Same.
is very bad at math." Like they want that they want to give you that baseline first, and that's huge because that's going to help keep your content systems manageable. It's also going to help keep the content engaging, you know?
Yeah.
And then what was the last piece? Connection.
Connection. Yep.
So, connection might be where AI is doing probably the most exciting work because you've got these conversational agents or tutors now, and AI that interacts with learners, answers questions, and offers clarification. You've got systems that match people with mentors or peers based on shared goals and experiences. And you've also got real time in the flow guidance that shows up inside tools that people use every day. I've been using this example lately. One of my old bosses and a mentor of mine, Morty Golding, who I worked with at lynda.com, he did a video not too long ago of, I believe it was like Notebook LM or something like that, Google Studio, watching him work in Adobe Illustrator. And he basically said, I would like to draw a logo of a star and a circle, right? Just very basic stuff.
Mhm.
But this thing was like, go to the left-hand navigation, take out the rectangle tool, draw the round the corners, do all this. Then when the shape was drawn, Morty was like, you know what? It really doesn't look like you've helped me draw a perfect circle. It looks more like an oval. The thing was like, you're right. I forgot to tell you to hold down the shift key. Delete that, grab the ellipse tool again. Now this time hold the shift key while drawing it. I was blown away. It was
Wow.
the most basic example ever. But at the same time, I'm sitting here thinking, I've heard from so many people over the years as I've taught things in classrooms like, oh, I don't know how to do this. And the teacher would have to come from the front of the room to the back and guide them through, using the mouse and all this other. That's not going to be the case anymore. It's going to be the case of the person having a connection with their computer and the computer being able to recognize he didn't hold down the shift key. So I need to tell him to do that. So I'll tell him to erase that star or erase that square, hold down the shift key, and he'll draw that perfect circle or that perfect square. And then he can move on with the lesson. And that is going to take so much off the plate of the instructor. And it's also going to empower and make the learner feel so much better because they're not going to have to raise that hand and ask that question live in real time. So that connection with that agentic agent is going to be very, very important.
Yeah, what you just described too, they're putting knowledge into practice like in real time, like
Yeah,
immediately, which is
immediately.
insane.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely.
Okay, now the big question.
Okay.
What do you think the future holds for AI in learning and how will it evolve in the coming years? And is there any application or tech development that L&D professionals should kind of have on their radar?
Yeah. How much time do we have?
I was gonna say, I said it was big.
Yeah. So I think we're heading into a phase where AI is going to become more embedded and multimodal. And what I mean by that is it's going to become a part of your life the same way your smartphone is. And I keep telling people, like, for example, my mother and father, they're in their 70s. They live on a farm in Kentucky. They know the term AI, but they have no use for it other than maybe like their Amazon Echo that sits in the room, right? And that's not even like real AI. But
Yeah.
anyway, so until we get to that point, which we are rapidly moving towards, no, not a lot of people are going to use it outside of us techies and us learning and development people and all these people. But once we hit that, AI is going to become more embedded and multimodal in our lives, meaning we are going to be able to make it do multiple things at the same time. So you're going to be able to say, read this to me or summarize this for me, read back the summary, and then draw an infographic representing what I just learned. You're going to be able to do that all from one single voice prompt that you talk to the thing, right? Right now, most people are just interacting with AI through chat interfaces, but you're going to be talking to it. You're going to be showing it things. You're going to be collaborating with it inside of documents and design tools. AI is going to become a coworker. It's already starting. I don't have them on right now. If I did, you would be able to see them. But I have AI, the Meta Ray-Ban glasses, right?
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and those things are so cool because we went on a trip to Savannah, Georgia, and what I was able to do as I was walking around, we didn't take like a guided tour, but there are all these historical markers around the area. And so I would say, "Hey," I won't say it not to trigger your audience, but "Hey, glasses, what am I looking at?" And the glasses would look at whatever I was looking at and say, "This is a historical marker for X, Y, and Z. This person did blah 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 during the Civil War." Like it was like being on a
My
history.
goodness, yeah.
It was very cool, right? That's the level that we're headed to with this. And I think as computers evolve as accessories like glasses and goggles and contacts and whatever else evolve, these things are just always going to be there, right? Maybe it's an earpiece that you just constantly wear, like an AirPod that's able to talk, but maybe also has like a little camera and it's able to do things. And that's going to be super cool. I think another area that I'm super interested in, and this is something we talked about a little bit earlier, but and it also kind of freaks me out, is digital twins.
Oh,
Creating AI versions of subject matter experts that other people can learn from. So if you can imagine a new sales representative being able to interact with an AI that's trained on all of the knowledge and thinking patterns of the best closer in the business, right? That's
wow.
not that's not science fiction anymore. That's
No.
like now, right? Like we could take our best salesperson at Adobe, we could set them in a room, we could train AI data on what they're saying, and we could turn that into, even if it's not them, just an avatar that has all that information. And then a new person going through orientation could go through a coaching session where this person would show them potential deal simulations, work them through pitch exercises, all of that kind of stuff. That could be applicable to multiple subjects, right? You could think about that in terms of someone trying to become a lawyer, someone trying to become, anything that would require that like back and forth question and answer type of scenario. And that to me is super cool, also a little creepy, but I think it's going to allow us to scale at a pace that we've really never been, able to do before. And then finally, I think, AI taking a bigger role in program management is going
Mhm.
to be a big deal. So systems are going to set learning goals, track outcomes, adjust delivery schedules, and provide insights to us, the learning managers. They're going to just send us those reports. We're not going to have to go in and check the dashboards anymore. This means the learning becomes more efficient and responsive over time. We would be able to give feedback back to it, like, oh, I see we're lagging here. Please create something for this cohort to enhance their scores. It will automatically be able to do a lot of that. Now, I don't think it's anytime soon. Like judging by where we are in the landscape right now, if we're talking time frame, I'm probably saying 5 years. We're away from that. That's not super long though. Like if you think about it, because I blinked
No,
my
it's
eyes,
not.
I still think it was 2019 yesterday.
Don't get me
So,
started. Don't get me
like
started.
I've lost a lot of time these last
Yeah.
few years. Um, for L&D pros specifically, like the people who are in it, who are practicing this stuff, I would say pay attention to where AI is showing up outside the learning space. So,
Mhm.
I mean, what do I mean by that? I mean, look at what's happening with Microsoft Copilot. Look at Google Gemini. Look at all the tools that your teams are already using. Because chances are, as long as their IT isn't blocking it, they're out there experimenting. And it's not
Mhm.
just ChatGPT. I know everybody thinks ChatGPT is like the cat's meow, and it's really great. But there are so many other things that people are using. Socratic from Google is an amazing thing for studying and students and things like that. If people in the L&D community have not played with Socratic from Google, please go try that. Amazing. And my boss Alan actually wrote an amazing article on it on LinkedIn. If anybody wants to go find that, his name is Alan Partridge. Very good article to read. But that's where the learners are. And that's where the learning needs to go. You need to figure out how to integrate these tools because that's what people are already using. It's the same way, we had to integrate VCRs into the classroom because we knew kids were watching movies at home. We moved from the overhead projector with the thousand-degree light bulb that almost burned down the school every time, right? We moved away from that to the big VCR. When the VCR wheeled in on its cart, kids got excited.
I
Same thing
know.
same thing here. They're gonna find a way to do it. It's gonna be in their cell phones. It's gonna be on their tablets, right? You have to find ways to create learning that meshes with that. And I think the final thing that I would say to people in the L&D world is that we need to stop with this AI versus human narrative and try to transition to this AI plus human narrative because the L&D teams that figure out how to blend creativity, empathy, and data with this new capability of AI in this space, they're going to be the ones that lead the charge into whatever it is that's next. So you've got to figure that out. And I know it's hard. And I
Mm.
know, like, inherently, we are not built to talk to robots, and we do not feel like these things are real. We feel like this is something some tech bro cooked up in a high rise in Silicon Valley, and we're just like at the mercy of it. We're not. We're the users. We're the people who are writing the destiny of where these things go. And if we use them in this way, that's the way they will be used. So let's go ahead and set that pace. And that's what I would say. Just try to be a pace setter for that.
Justin, this has been enlightening. And I've also enjoyed the trip down memory lane talking about
Thank you.
libraries and pearl clutching and all of that good stuff. I'm loving every minute of it. So thank you so much for
Fantastic.
being here today, and we appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it as well.
Another big thanks to Justin for sharing all of his valuable insights with us and exploring the many possibilities of AI in L&D and beyond. If you'd like to learn more about AI and Adobe, check out the Adobe Learning Manager website to discover how it can help you deliver personalized learning to customers and employees alike. And thanks to you, listener, for tuning in. Hope to have you back next time.